Hello guys, and welcome back to Commander, the Great War with our Entente playthrough. In the last episode, we had some pretty decisive naval battles where we sank a few German convoys and even some of their ships, and we still have von Arnold here in a light cruiser trying to escape us. All the submarines the Germans have up here have seemingly slunk back to their home ports in shame that they failed their mission. Or they're hiding somewhere in between our ships and our ports. We're going to focus on the Navy first for now, and then look at the land stuff later. Well, to start, we need to get the Dreadnought back home to port. Let's see to make sure they haven't gotten in our way. Alright, cool. They haven't gotten in our way. Very good. And the armored cruiser does not need to be out at sea anymore either. So we're going to retreat that. None of this stuff needs to be at port. It's simply a safe place to be in case the ships end up being needed against any German fleet vessels. However, they do have the responsibility of guarding this area up here, which spawns German convoys, which becomes problematic because the moment a German convoy shows up, the entire German Navy just rushes to assist it. Of course, this responsibility is on the Russians. So, a Russian submarine shall be sent up north to patrol this area. However, I have sent plenty of British subs over here in order to assist with this task. Now, this area overall is only too wide if I go north, so I don't have to worry too much about sending a bunch of troops up here, a bunch of submarines. Realistically, I could try to blockade this entire northern part if I sent more submarines. I just don't have enough submarines to do that currently. I'm going to send the British submarine pretty much as far as it goes. Okay, it doesn't need to go that far. Let's say to the edge of where I could blockade it with ease. And then I'll buddy it with this Russian submarine over here. And that sounds like a pretty good idea, I'd say. Since we have the north covered up here, we'll also cover the south. I'll take the British submarine that just repaired in Riga and send it to blockade the rest of this little passage. So I'll have the north blockaded and this passage blockaded. If I could get two more to blockade this, that would be fantastic. But we have other convoy routes to deal with for the time being that's more important. A second submarine to blockade down here would be invaluable, for example, as well as to more effectively deal with any merchant convoys. And then submarines to watch the Norwegian passage, which is not going to be as easy to do, would also be very good. But two submarines over there should be perfectly fine. And then I believe we'd have all of their routes guarded. Ideally, I could just, retreat these British subs, but it's the only ships the British can send in here to even help. But moving over to the British fleets, we have to deal with the remnants of von Arnold here. I'm going to leave that responsibility to the fleet that was blockading this area, because the light cruisers are honestly enough to blockade it anyway. So I'm going to move this Dreadnought with a commander forward, and it will attack. And what do you know? We wiped it out with one easy hit. So we don't need to send too many more things out into combat. I will take the armored cruiser that was up here and send it back into formation with its buddies. The Dreadnought will also go back into formation with its buddies. And now this whole fleet that was here is reformed. Now we have 3 injured ships over here that we need to heal, unfortunately. 1 or 2 being part of this formation and 1 being part of this formation. So we are going to have to send them back to the British Isles, because that's, well, it could be Belgium as well, in order to repair. So okay, so I'll send this armored cruiser up to Scapa Flow. It's close, I guess. It's close enough to reach. That's what's important. I want to get there in one turn, because you can repair the same turn you get to a port. Anytime you move and don't attack, you can use your attack as a repair, and that goes for pretty much everything on the map, which is something I did not know until later. Would have been nice to know at the beginning, but oh well. Let's see. The light cruiser here can go to Newcastle. Wait. Yes. The light cruiser can go to Newcastle because that seems safer to me. And we'll repair it there. The armored cruiser is not as valuable. I'm going to send that down to Antwerp. a little more risky of a place to repair, but that's why I sent the armored cruiser instead of something more valuable. Now, this is all fairly well covered. Fairly. How should I deal with this? Eventually, this dreadnought will rejoin this group. A light cruiser and an armored cruiser will rejoin this group as well. These dreadnoughts, in the meantime, are going to go sit over here where an armored cruiser will end up joining them as well. I'm not sure entirely even where to sit them anymore based on how this has gone, but let's say one goes here and one goes here, and they'll just guard the dreadnought for this turn. Good use for pre-dreadnoughts, I guess. They're all buffed up, too. And hopefully no more German convoys come through. Not that I mind sinking them, but sinking them is still just a waste of my time trying to stop the Germans from getting any supplies. For Serbia, we're not going to really do a whole lot because, again, we don't really have the points to recruit any more units, unfortunately, but we're holding our line, and that's it. I went ahead and repaired this unit because they attacked it for whatever reason. We're not going to go too much on the offensive or anything, but what I will do is I will go ahead and actually upgrade the Serbian ammo production so that my artillery can get a few extra shots out in one last ditch of defiance when Serbia finally comes close to falling or gets to that point. It's only 20, so it's not that bad. I'll go ahead and purchase that. It goes from 3 to 4, and that's a pretty substantial change, quite frankly. They only have one arty piece, and that'll help keep it firing. It's not going to really fire too much right now because ammunition is so limited, and because I know we will need it. I do have an idea for potentially saving Serbia. I'm not sure how it will work out, though, or if it'll be worth even trying to do. My idea was, as we see the times have updated, and now Italy will join in 10 to 12 turns. 20 plus turns, roughly, probably about 20 exactly, until Bulgaria joins. I was figuring, what if I sent Italian troops into Serbia and took a defensive situation up on their border in order to keep Serbia in the fight to further distract enemy forces? Because if I could indefinitely distract the Bulgarians and this whole line of Germans and Austrians, I was thinking that that could be potentially productive. It would keep the Ottomans, well, maybe not split from their allies, but let's just say a coalition of troops transferring back and forth would meet a roadblock if Serbia never falls. And if Serbia never falls, if I could protect Serbia with Italian troops somehow, like the eastern front of it anyway, then I was thinking when Greece joined, it would just be that much more of a headache for the Central Powers, because we could even mount an offensive in the Baltics. And that's a pretty ahistorical thing, and I'm just thinking about it. I might just let Serbia fall to its inevitable demise and focus Italy full-fledged in a land war to try to overcome the enemy powers. Let them be distracted by Serbia for a while and then by Greece. I don't know. This is just an idea I'm throwing out there. But generally, that's all we're going to do for Serbia right now. We're going to keep stockpiling ammunition so that we can use it more when we need to. The French Navy, just as a little update, is staying the same. We don't need to do anything. British convoys arriving through Egypt. Convoys everywhere. French convoy getting closer. A British convoy did arrive, so we have some points to work with. A lot of points and a lot more manpower to work with Great Britain. They are quickly going to become more influential in this war than France, I am realizing, with the sheer amount of convoys that they receive. My whole ideas have kind of gone into flux, but I will keep France as the main Western manpower country, and once we free Belgium, I will support them with Belgium. Britain will play a mostly supportive role in Europe, but take on the headstrong role of fighting the Ottomans, especially in the south, and we have some Ottoman issues to deal with. But let's deal with the Western Front for right now, because not a lot's really happening. Our cavalry restored, like, literally all their efficiency in one turn. I guess efficiency recovery can be a lot faster than I gave it credit for. I thought it was, like, one efficiency at a time, a turn, and maybe it is, but they went from, like, 8 to 10, I think. Like, they were yellow, so it was lower than 8, but now they're at 10. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's an instant thing or what, but hey, here we have it. So maybe keeping the enemies engaged is always a good idea. Speaking of keeping enemies engaged, unfortunately the supplies aren't running out yet in Brussels for some reason. And they've been surrounded for at least 2 turns now. Luckily I did get my artillery up here, and I'm going to focus it on the infantry that has who is this? Von Falkenhayn. Can't say that probably. Because he has the lower overall efficiency. So let's go ahead and get that French battery firing again. We did no damage, but we lowered his efficiency from 7 to 6. I also need to now get the British fighter force into France to join the front here. I don't know if I should keep them in the back or closer to the front. I think I'll go halfway and send them just southwest of Brussels, safely behind a French army and the Canadian Expeditionary Force. They'll be able to start strafing next turn. There's no ASW things for my airship to do currently, and I blew up the enemy ship in a much simpler fashion, so we can actually use it as a bombing force for the time being to further weaken the enemy army over here next to Brussels. Whether they have it on or off of Brussels won't matter, because Brussels is not a super fortress, and each of these hexes is actually similarly defended. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to bomb with that. Oh, but they had fighters nearby, and so we actually took some damage, though I do believe we got our bombing rate off. Maybe it didn't actually hurt their efficiency, sadly. So we will need to end up engaging these fighter forces. Our fighters may become better for this overall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sadly, he's 1 tile too far, but I didn't want to put him too close because this front isn't entirely defended. I didn't think that would be a very good thing to do. Our French fighters will go and engage the enemy German fighters that are chilling out over here still. 2 more damage. No damage to ourselves. They're down to 4 efficiency. We're doing pretty good damage to these ones. Ideally, I'd love to do some more damage over here, but the winter makes any assault here just impossible for right now. So we have to wait until the winter runs out, which, by the way, 1 turn, which normally has been a week at a time up to this point, just passed like 3 weeks. It was the 14th of December. It is now the 7th of January. Just like that. So a lot of time has actually passed. Hopefully the winter will be done with quick, and then we can take the rest of Belgium and get Belgium back into the war. And I'm mainly probably going to use them to pump out defensive forces just to kind of hold the rear line so the enemy doesn't get any ideas. Now to figure out what to do with a lot of my western country points. So with the French, I'm going to go ahead and spend their points now on an artillery unit. They have 41. This will cost 40. Only an upkeep of 1. They're about to get a convoy soon anyway, so they'll have a nice influx of stuff. When they get that convoy, I will upgrade their ammo production, and we shouldn't run out of ammo really in that time. We might. No, we shouldn't actually. I take that back. Because this will take 5 turns actually to finish anyway, so it won't get to fire anything before that arrives anyway. So this will be timed pretty well. So for the French, I will purchase an artillery piece because I planned on leaving the majority of the artillery action in Europe, artillery and infantry manpower in Europe, to France. And I believe the convoys will help them sustain that manpower, just like the British manpower is going to just be exploding like crazy. So France is out of manpower. I already took care of basically all of their repairing and everything, so that's fine. I noticed Belgium is actually slowly gaining production points again, because it returns ownership to them if they have like a core loyalty there, which is interesting. I wonder how it focuses on claiming territory from other countries. Like, it knows to make something Russian. It knows to make something French. I guess it's based on what country unit steps there. So if you want a country to benefit from increased production, you step that unit there. That could certainly be handy for France. France should be taking all points of supply, really, rather than anybody else, because Great Britain just has so many convoys they don't need it. Speaking of Great Britain, we have to figure out how to spend their points. First, we have to figure out what we're doing over here in Egypt. Well, I want to keep attacking this artillery for daring to just be here, because it will keep the enemies spending their points and keep them distracted. We have recovered our efficiency here. It came back pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and attack. We lost 1, we dealt 4. That's exactly what the game promised us would happen, so that's pretty good. Here it says we'll kill 2 and take 1, but it didn't work out that well quite last time, so but I'm going to try it again anyway. So let's go ahead and attack. We lost none, we dealt one. Alright, so that's pretty good, actually. We lost efficiency, they lost efficiency. Everyone's losing efficiency, it's whatever. Since no one else in the UK is going to be using the train this turn, I'm going to go ahead and allow the... I'll give this a name, actually. This is the Anzac Force. I assume the entire Anzac is just going to be summarized as this singular force here, which is a shame, you know. The entire Canadian military summarized as a singular infantry unit plus their garrisons. Australia and New Zealand combined, 1 infantry unit. Thanks so much for the Empire. I'd love to see what they summarize India as. They don't. They just turn it into more manpower. But I will take Anzac and send them on the rails, because it'll be just as inefficient as moving them. A little more efficient because they get further through, and I'll try to get them up to the front as soon as I can. Ooh, there's rough terrain in here. That's way better than the dunes and the desert. Too bad there's nothing to defend over here. Because that would be... Oh, there's grassland? That would be so much nicer to defend, but everything we need is over here by desert. Hopefully there's nothing else over here. There probably is, really. I assume the entire Ottoman force isn't up in the northwest. But there you go. There's, I believe, every British move we're making for the entire turn. Now, for the British spending. We have 1 submarine being made, and that's fine. That British submarine next turn will finish, and we can use it to finish blockading the channel. We need 2 more submarines for patrolling Norway. I wonder if it spawns from the north of Norway or one of these ports. I don't know. I'll figure it out. At the very least, I don't even need 2. I just need 1 to keep an eye on the place. So one thing we're definitely going to end up getting is another British submarine. And quite frankly, I have so many fucking points for them right now since that convoy arrived, and there are so many more convoys on the way. And most of what I need from them right now really are just more submarines in order to finish dominating the seas. I mean, more light cruisers, other ships could help as well. But we're managing with what ships we have. Just more submarines would be valuable to finish asserting all my naval dominance. They're also the cheapest. I really love submarines in this game. I'm going to purchase 1, 2, 3 submarines. 2 of them will be put up here, and 1 of them will be put in here. Actually, I might want 2 for in here to finish blockading this. I don't know that I would need all this blockaded, but under the assumption that Germany is going to continue producing naval ships and causing problems for me, getting as many choke points as I can is probably helpful, I imagine. Maybe not. Maybe this is a terrible plan, but I figure, you know, they'll be building more light cruisers at the very least. Maybe dreadnoughts. Maybe they won't be that ballsy. They'll be building more submarines. And the good thing about submarines is they can block off enemy submarines. So if they try to use submarines to go assist the convoys coming down from the north, well, I can trap them with my own. The fleets up here ensure that they cannot get through this area. This is a little more like they could just come through here anytime, but I have entire fleets out here to deal with this. The channel will be blockaded. Anywhere else is just too vast for me to actually blockade well enough. So I think this is gonna be actually a good idea. So 2 up here. I built another 1 to come over here. So I'm going to build 1 more submarine, and then I will have every submarine that I know that I'll need. And we still have some British points to spare. So I'm going to use those British points in order to get ammunition up to 10. So we'll have 10 ammunition production, and this is where I plan on leaving it until I start dwindling, if that ever happens, and the game proves to me that I will need more than I think I need. So very supportive, productive turn for the British, but of course I don't really have them currently on a produce a big army and fight a whole bunch of things kind of setup. I have mostly dedicated them to air support and naval stuff, but as the convoys pour in, I will gear them more towards invading the Ottomans. because there's not enough room in Europe to fit a whole bunch more British forces. Like, the French can handle that. And I'm sure the Italians can handle their front as well. They only have 14 income, and the submarines are probably going to hamper this. Every unit is going to hamper this. So eventually we may even get into the negatives of production, but the convoys should keep it going. I think production is maybe raising. I don't know. If we conquer Ottoman cities, that would certainly help. I'll have to keep an eye on it, because I don't know if I'll need to maintain myself with convoys, or if I'll be able to have any positive production at all with them. The same is probably eventually going to go for France as well. Oh boy, I wonder how buffed up Germany and Austria's productions are to keep them relevant in this war. Like, they must have great industry that we just don't have. At least, that's what I think. For the Russians, I've gone ahead and repaired a number of troops. This garrison here and this garrison here. I've gone ahead and repaired the armored train to the north. Our infantry is still moving south. I'm going to go march it into the entrenchments that they just kindly left open for me in these grasslands to just swoop in and take over, right next to Lemberg of all places. And you know what? Their efficiency is so hurt that I swear to God, if they just, if it wasn't winter, I'd be knocking on Lemberg's door just like that. But I'm already starting to kind of get an encirclement thing going on here. At the end of the day, we need more overall power in Russia. We don't have the forces, and there's not enough versatility over here to man an entire front while also keeping everything logistically sound. One thing that we could definitely benefit from would be a second artillery piece in the south, this part right here, and I know that for sure. However, we also have a situation in the south where the Ottomans are now starting to invade, and this is problematic because now our small garrison sitting on the city of Sarakamish is now at 7 efficiency. It's losing efficiency because they're attacking it with so much. However, let's note, I believe 1, 2, and 3 of the things they sent are just garrisons, not armies. So they're going to have trouble dislodging us overall. Maybe not trouble dislodging a small garrison, but I have infantry up here that can be utilized. Winter or not, the snow isn't over here, and these garrisons aren't entrenched, so I might as well utilize it. It's not so bad if we do end up losing ground over here, because most of this ground is not actually very valuable in the long run. However, we don't want to just, lose everything south of this point, that's for sure. So we want to put up a fight for now, at least. I'm going to take Evert here and his infantry. I'm going to attack this garrison that's been pushing up on us. We lost 1. We actually lost no efficiency, I guess, due to the lack of snow. And we dealt 3, so that's good. We dealt some damage, maybe make them think twice. It's probably not going to be very consequential overall, because the city is only defended at the moment by a small garrison. If it really comes down to it, if they do too much damage to it, I'll just swap the garrison off, swap the infantry on, repair the infantry, and let the infantry defend the town, and hopefully they do a better job. The problem I'd have to worry about is the infantry being surrounded and cut off from supply. I do have another infantry nearby who could potentially help with that. As it stands, they simply could not surround this whole situation here without meeting this infantry for the time being. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to meet what they throw at me and hope that their assault kind of dies down. So one thing I want to do is get the Russian troops moved forward. Not necessarily on the assault because they're moving through the winter and that's bad for efficiency and yada yada. But I want to move them forward so they form more of a line like the enemies have, so we can dig in and prepare ourselves to push forward when the winter breaks. So one of the first things I'm going to do is take this Warsaw force here. The Warsaw force is going odd places, man. And I'm going to send them to the west of Danzig along the coast, hold a bit of a more defensive position there. The armored train next to the Warsaw force is also going to creep forward just 1 hex. Oh, they do not use efficiency on the rails. Maybe it's on the rails in general. I wonder if it's just armored trains, or I wonder if you're moving specifically on rails, you save on efficiency. I don't know. But the infantry led by Yudenik here is going to move up and intermingle with these forces over here. Now, the infantry led by Brusilov, however, is going to move south so I can spread out my overall buffs a little bit better and form a little bit more of a line here. He will dig in over here closer to Warsaw and, provide any buffs in case the enemy goes on the offense over here. I want one of my commanders down here, honestly, but that's not necessarily what I want to be spending a whole bunch of things on right now. I'm going to take the artillery here and I'm going to move it forward again into these fortifications that have been vacated. Thankfully, did not use any efficiency that time around. And remember, these are going to be pretty much defensive positions for the most part. I'm going to sit back and relax for a couple turns and let things improve. I'm going to take this infantry here, whereas the Warsaw may have been more thematically appropriate for this. I'm going to send it down to Warsaw, right in front of Warsaw here, along the train. And now they're down to 9 efficiency. They're going to dig in here and block the train going up here, and also kind of complete, almost, there's one spot here not defended. A line currently formed leading to the front against the Austrians. So we have one big line. We can already see, based on the density of our units, that we have much more capability to form a full line than the enemies do. In fact, once this train is freed up, I can send it somewhere down the center and then shift some of our forces. Then we have a complete line and then an extra unit here or there. The enemies can't actually do that against us yet, and when the time comes to attack, that's going to be pretty important that we have that. Now, neither of our sides has a good amount of infantry. We have a mixture of garrisons, infantry, I have cavalry and armored trains. It's a really weird mashup of things, but we are forming a good line that is going to push once the time comes down to it. We do need our fighters up on the front, however, so we are going to also move our fighters, and I'm going to move them right up here with the artillery. But they will also serve as scouts for us to see further than the cavalry can allow us to see. This is why having another unit down here would be so good. And I think I'd want to move like the armored train there, and then I could move the cavalry southeast. That would be pretty nice. But that would be a wait till next turn kind of thing, or maybe 2 turns. I believe next turn it will get at least 1 efficiency point back, so that will be good. And hopefully entrenchments would already be ready for it. I believe that's everything for the turn, except for figuring out what we're going to purchase with Russia. Now, they, of course, have no convoys to rely on. They have 34 income currently, and we need to make it count. So there's a couple things I need. I need more fighters. I need more artillery pieces. I could use some bombers. I could use an airship. I'm already making an airship, actually. All I'm making is an airship. More infantry would be invaluable. There's so many things I actually need for the Russians. But I think one of the most important things that I need single-handedly is another artillery piece so that we have one in the north and one in the south, at the very least. Maybe not an artillery piece for down by the Ottomans, because we don't have the infantry to protect an artillery piece down there. But damn, an artillery piece could be great at cracking the border forts of the Austrians. Certainly. And the northern artillery piece can go to strategic locations because Germany's a little sparser than the border forts of Austria. So I'm going to go ahead and spend almost all their remaining production points on purchasing another artillery piece. Russia has to provide everything for themselves after all. I just hope that they can sustain it. Currently, they are at 98% of their economic output, and just like Serbia and Belgium, I don't believe it'll ever go back up once they lose it. You know, I can't help it. I'm just feeling a little ballsy, so I'm actually on the front here with Belgium, going to go ahead and attack. Dealt 1, took 1. An attack, dealt 1, took 1. All right, equal losses. Those are losses that I could easily live with. We didn't lose any efficiency. We took down 2 enemy units here, which they can repair through. And I don't know if we actually hurt their efficiency or not. I wish I could attack with the BEF, but the BEF's efficiency is so fucking low. But my hope is that by engaging these enemies in a fight, they won't recover all their efficiency as quickly. I want to bring this down as soon as possible. And due to their already extremely lowered efficiency, I can actually do some damage. I mean, we had pretty bad odds. We were supposed to deal 1 and lose 2. We dealt 1, we lost 1 in both instances. Very good even trade. I like this. I think this will help us in the long run, or the short run especially, of taking over Brussels. And with the situation as it is, I'm going to go ahead and hit end turn. See what's going to happen. Looks like some fortifications are just expiring all over the place. The Ottomans are fiercely moving forward, desperately trying to push against us, pushing heavily against that town. I will have to probably send in some infantry. The Ottomans switched out the garrison that was on the border with the British and went after our infantry, going heavily after our garrisons on the Austrian front there with the Russians, redeploying things along the German-Russian front, going on the offensive against Serbia, against one of our armies. That's pretty ballsy. Looks like they're retreating a lot of units away from France, and that's kind of stupid. I might just have been given a free chance to push against them. Maybe even into their own fortifications. They're still kind of focusing the BEF, attacking them because they've been weakened, and doing what damage they can to them, unfortunately. But they are not making enough progress to actually wipe out the BEF. And we have developed in France the armored car chassis and finished a British infantry, which I believe was intended for Egypt, yeah, and a British submarine. We also got a British commander of some kind. I'll figure out where to deploy that. Due to the already omnipresence of French and Russian commanders over in Europe, I'm actually going to deploy this general to the Anzac forces in Egypt, because I believe that in Egypt against the Ottomans is simply where it would be most needed. To give you an idea of the damage, by the way, the BEF is down to 3 efficiency, so I may actually have to retreat the BEF in order to maintain this, though they may get a supply line back, and that could be problematic. So I'll try to avoid ruining my setup here when I do that. For reasons unknown, they've left swaths of their territory just undefended, likely relocating it, moving it places, moving it around, trying to spread out its defenses. It may know that Italy is going to be entering soon, and it may be deploying forces against Italy. I can't really see that far. Somewhere between 9 and 11 turns remaining, but we have a nice full turn and a nice full episode. So, hope you guys are enjoying the series. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.